and it will be made available online. And the link to the webinar and the handbook will also be included in a follow-up email. Also, you're currently all on mute, but there will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And at that point, feel free to chat me, or I can unmute you and we can have a conversation. So I'd like to start off this presentation by giving a special thanks to a few organizations, and these include the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Santa Barbara Channelkeeper, Heal the Bay, the Orange County Marine Protected Area Council, and WildCoast. And these organizations help provide resources and also input when reviewing these handbooks. And it's also important to note that they are Ocean Communicators Alliance members. And finally, this project is funded by the California Coastal Commission's Whaletail Program. During this presentation, I plan on giving a little background about the Ocean Communicators Alliance. Thank you, Ocean, just to put the handbook in context a little bit better. And then we'll talk about how we envision these handbooks to be used, and then also what's included in the handbook, followed by a question and answer session. So starting with the Ocean Communicators Alliance, this is a group of more than 300 professionals and ocean-related organizations, agencies, and businesses who in the course of their work reach millions of Californians with ocean messages. Over the past year or so, the OCA held 4 MPA communication workshops focused on MPA messaging. And these messages are included in the handbook, and we'll get to talk about this a little bit later on. And the feedback we kept receiving during these workshops was a need to create this type of resource because a lot of these organizations, they have excellent naturalist and docent training programs, but they don't necessarily have the capacity to create materials like a handbook. And we also thought that it would be a great idea to create something like this because it would help streamline MPA messages being disseminated statewide. And something else the Ocean Communicators Alliance does is help support the statewide Thank You Ocean campaign. So Thank You Ocean is the public awareness campaign, and it's a partnership with NOAA, the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, in the state of California. And the mission of Thank You Ocean is to unite voices and amplify messages to raise ocean awareness and promote everyday actions that protect the ocean. MPAs are one main ocean topic that Thank You Ocean focuses on. And we've got a dedicated web page and several podcasts about marine protected areas. And the Ocean Communicators Alliance, they help support the campaign through disseminating Thank You Ocean resources and working with Thank You Ocean to develop content such as these handbooks. And getting back to these handbooks, we believe that docents and naturalists play a critical role in helping to increase stewardship and educate the public on the importance of California's coast and ocean. Docents are usually on the forefront interacting with the public, and we thought that it was really important that they have access to MPA resources so they feel comfortable and confident when talking about MPAs. So we're creating 4 regional MPA docent training handbooks, and these parallel the MPA study regions that were created during the Marine Life Protection Act initiative. And they're intended to be a concise resource for docents and naturalists and those who run MPA programs. So these handbooks are about 10 to 12 pages, and we've really tried our best to consolidate the most pertinent information about MPAs so docents and naturalists can kind of flip through it and get a really broad, basic understanding of MPAs. And if they were interested in learning more about it, then we have a whole section of additional resources where they can dive deeper. And we hope that these handbooks are used as either a standalone document or included as a chapter within an organization's existing training manual. And for those who already have robust training programs that we've spoken to, they plan on using it as a supplemental material on top of all the resources that they already have, and that's perfectly fine. So the idea isn't to print too many hard copies, but to provide the handbooks electronically so that as new information is made available and resources are developed, this handbook may be updated. And we really hope that folks will use these handbooks to fit your unique organizational and individual needs. Furthermore, rather than reinventing the wheel and creating new content, the Ocean Communicators Alliance pulled from various resources to develop the handbook. The main resources that we used were the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, or DFW's website, the California MPA Educational Resource website, which is hosted by the California National Marine Sanctuary Foundation. And this website is a compilation of existing materials. And then we also used a curriculum resource for MPAs in Southern California. And this curriculum was developed by folks, probably some of you on the line, and it was a collaborative effort with Aquaria and NGO folks. And a benefit that we thought by turning to these resources was that these were already, a lot of them were already vetted by DFW, and so it made the approval process by the Department of Fish and Wildlife smoother on our end. And lastly, we used the proceedings that came out of the Ocean Communicators Alliance MPA communication workshops. So what are in these handbooks? We broke down the handbook into two major sections. The first one being more general, a bigger picture look at what MPAs are, the importance of them, and the difference between federal and state MPAs. And this section stays pretty much the same throughout the whole state. And so talking about streamlining the information that's coming out statewide, we thought it would be good to keep it the same. And then the second part focuses on more California and regional specific information about MPAs. So for the South Coast region, we really looked at the South Coast MPAs and what makes them unique. We also have information about ocean etiquette and guidelines for viewing wildlife, information on how to get more involved within local MPAs, and links to additional resources. So at this point, I'm going to start walking through the handbook and talking about why we're here. About marine protected areas, there is a general overview about MPAs. And we talk about marine protected areas as places designated to help protect and restore marine life and habitats in the ocean. MPAs are among the most useful tools for helping protect the ocean, complementing other conservation efforts by providing a place for marine life to recover and thrive. Documented benefits of MPAs across the globe include higher abundance and larger size of fish, invertebrates and plants, increased biodiversity, and greater biomass of targeted fish species. And overall, MPAs provide natural classrooms, cherished recreational spots, and opportunities for exploration. Within California, there are both federal and state marine protected areas, and there's numerous federal agencies that manage MPAs, and they can include national parks, estuarine research reserves, marine sanctuaries, wildlife refuge, and fishery reserves. So within California waters, there are 4 national marine sanctuaries, and this includes the Channel Islands, Cordell Bank, Gulf of the Farallones, and Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And for the South Coast region, we have one, and it's the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. And in this handbook, we included a little bit more information about the Channel Islands. Moving on to California's network of MPAs, we have 124, and it covers approximately 16% of all our coastal state waters. And to account for regional differences, the state created 5 distinct regions, including the North Coast, the North Central Coast, the Central Coast, and the South Coast region. And it's important to note that the San Francisco Bay region is currently on hold and is being considered at a future date. And the coastal open ocean portion of California's new system of MPAs, completed in 2012, was designed through a collaborative public process. In each of these regions, a group of local, knowledgeable stakeholders work together using science guidelines to map out MPAs for each region. These stakeholders include commercial and recreational anglers, tribal and government representatives, educators, researchers, and conservationists. And we thought it was important to include a little bit of the administrative process because it's so unique. And we also did note that, you know, as exciting and different that this process was for the general public and people that aren't as familiar with the MPAs and the MPA site selection process, it is a little wonky, and so to not get too bogged down about it. But for, you know, policy wonks and nerds like myself, I think it is a really exciting process that happened. Moving on to managing about MPAs. So there's been numerous activities and projects established to ensure that MPAs are successfully implemented and managed. In doing so, there's three major components, first being monitoring. So the Department of Fish and Wildlife is the main agency that's mandated to manage these network of MPAs, and they partner with multiple different entities, and monitoring provides essential information to support MPA management decisions and inform other ocean policy. So CDFW partners with universities, agency researchers, tribal governments, citizen scientists, and fishermen to conduct research to establish a baseline for the health of our coastal ocean and to make sure that things are on track over time. Another major component is enforcement and compliance. Again, CDFW is the primary agency responsible for enforcing MPA regulations, but they do also partner with other agencies, including state parks, the U.S. Coast Guard, and NOAA to assist CDFW in enforcing resource-related activities or providing additional enforcement presence. And then finally, education and outreach. Public education outreach are vital to managing MPAs, and these activities inform the public about MPA regulations and in general what MPAs are and why they're important to California's marine environment. And this is a map of the South Coast Marine Protected Area. The South Coast region covers between Point Conception from Santa Barbara south to the California-Mexico border and includes the water around the Channel Islands. There's 50 MPAs within this network, and it covers approximately 15% of the South Coast region. And what's unique about the Southern California MPA is that it spans the California Bight. And this is unique because the California Bight, there's water from two major biogeographic regions that intersect. So cold temperate water from the north and warmer water from the south form a complex system of currents and environmental conditions. And this unique environment creates biodiversity hotspots. And so what we included within these handbooks is we used the information that came out of the Marine Life Protection Act initiative to identify commonly found species that benefit from South Coast MPAs. And so the criteria that was used to identify these species was that they occur within the South Coast MPA, recreational fisheries, and they have life history characteristics that make them more conducive to protection by MPAs. So examples of that are sedentary behavior, long lifespans, they have a relatively small home range, slow growth, or association with habitats that need additional spatial protection. So within the South Coast region, we identified several species, and these include the barred surf perch, kelp bass, California mussel, black oyster catcher, brand cormorant, giant kelp, and spiny lobster. So we tried to include kind of a broad array of species. Some of them are more iconic and others are a little bit less well known. And for each of these species, we included a picture as well as a fun fact. And a big part of the component, or sorry, a big component of these handbooks was communicating about marine protected areas. And so we included tips as well as key messages that have been used and have been successful in the past. So tips for communicating about MPAs, we included avoid abbreviations like MPAs, when you first start talking about the issue. For folks that aren't as familiar with MPAs, they don't know what that means, so it's a lot better to say marine protected areas when you approach folks at first so that they understand what you mean. And another one is lead with local examples. You know, the docents and naturalists, you're at the marine protected area and you're familiar with them. I think a good way to engage the public and build interest is talking about personal stories about why you love this MPA so much or how it's different from anywhere else in the world, and really talking about what excites you about this place. And another tip was to focus on the outcome of the MLPA, or the Marine Life Protection Act, rather than the planning process. So the administrative process was unique, but really emphasizing that the MPAs were designed by local citizens and really highlight the results. So talking about how MPAs provide safe havens for essential species and wonderful places for ocean enthusiasts to experience nature. And then the fourth tip was to put people in the picture. And although MPAs benefit marine wildlife and their surrounding habitat, it's also important to note that they are not the only ones benefiting. Coastal businesses may see a boost in tourism, tide poolers and naturalists may see more wildlife, and as MPAs begin to work, fishermen may enjoy more bountiful catches in nearby areas. And then the last tip was to use these 4 key messages, and I'll go through each one of them, but these came from a group of Southern California NGO and Aquaria Collaborative, as well as a PR firm called Resource Media, and they did polling, and they've been using it over the past year throughout the MPA site selection process, and these messages have really resonated well with people. And the first one is fertile old female fish, and this message is great because it creates a really good visual and helps people understand that marine protected areas provide a place for some species of ocean life to feed, breed, and thrive. Certain species of big old female fish may benefit from MPA protection if they're sedentary in behavior and live within an MPA or relatively small home range. Another one is analogous to underwater parks. To help people understand the concept of MPAs, a good way to start the conversation is to say that MPAs are like the parks that people visit and enjoy on land. And then once you hook them and get them to understand what the concept of an MPA is, you might want to pair this basic message with the name of the area. So you would say, you know, it's a state marine reserve or marine park or conservation area to limit confusion. Another key message is to put yourself in the picture, so similar to the tip that I just mentioned. You know, MPAs are open for exploration. You can swim, dive, surf, tide pool, kayak, watch birds and mammals, and really emphasize what you can do rather than the things you can't. And then the last one is talking about legacy. The MPAs may help to ensure kids and grandkids can enjoy a healthy, productive ocean. And in addition, there's been 2 more key messages that's been developed over the past year or so, and these include California pride and prosperity. California is leading the nation in ocean protection through the adoption of the nation's biggest network of scientifically based MPAs. And our coastal ocean supports a $39 billion economy, and 75% of ocean-related jobs are tourism and recreation. Protecting ocean hotspots is a smart investment that will pay major dividends in coming years. So really getting excited about marine protected areas and being able to communicate that to people, I think that's really important, because if they see that you're excited about this, and they'll be more interested and hopefully will want to learn more about it and support these marine protected areas. And when you're talking to folks, you know, there's definitely different audience groups, and so we provided examples of messages to various audience groups. And these general MPA messages and little pithy one-liners came from the South Coast Marine Protected Area Communication Workshop. that the OCA hosted in 2012. And so we broke it up into various audience groups, which include non-consumptive users, consumptive users, ocean-related businesses, lawmakers, and animal and nature enthusiasts. Key messages might resonate, one might resonate better than the other, and so by looking at your audience, you can tailor it a little bit better, and so we included examples of how you might tailor a specific message. And in addition to communicating about MPAs, we also included ocean etiquette and guidelines when viewing wildlife, and these marine wildlife viewing guidelines include stewardship principles intended to help inform the public about safe and responsible wildlife viewing practices. And we included this so that docents have something to take, look at really quick and see, not only talk about MPAs, but if they see someone, doing something wrong or that might be harming wildlife, they're able to approach that visitor and talk to them. And for the South Coast region, we noticed that, tide pools are more accessible. There's a lot more visitors, and so for this handbook, we included more resources in that section. So there's more links, and there's information by the Orange County MPA Council in there too. And then something else that we included was diving deeper into MPAs. So this is a short list of additional MPA-related projects and activities around the South Coast region. And we included MPA Watch, MPA, County Collaborative, and Reef Check California. And something else fun that we included was this Google Tour Builder, and it is a Google MPA tour, and you can kind of cruise over the South Coast region and look at all the different MPAs, and it has pictures and fun facts too. And then the last section of the handbook is additional resources information. So the links vary from education and outreach materials to scientific articles. And this isn't a comprehensive list of resources, and we encourage you to explore other websites. So Department of Fish and Wildlife, they have really great maps and brochures, and then this compiled MPA educational resource through the CaliforniaMPAs.org. This has a lot of different informational materials and outreach materials that have been developed by local environmental nonprofits and academia. So definitely take a look at that. And that's pretty much the handbook. And we really hope that you find this handbook useful and you're able to tailor it and fit it to your own needs. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I also have a Word version, so if you want that, please email me and I can send you that if you're interested in only certain sections of it because your training program already has stuff. And I also plan on printing a few hard copies of these too, and so if you would like one, please email me and I will try to get it to you. So that's pretty much the presentation, and I can open it up to questions and answers now. So thanks so much for being on and listening. Let's see. And then if you want to unmute yourself, it's star 6, and we can talk too.
Hello?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, I was wondering what the difference is between the other docent handbooks that are available?
Yes, great question. So for the other 3 regions, the background information is all very similar, but when you dive into the regional sections, I focused on, the species most likely to benefit. Those are more specific to a given region. And for example, for the North Coast region, there is more of a tribal presence, and so I included more information about tribes and tribal communities too.
Great, thank you.
Does anyone else have questions? Great. Well, if there aren't any questions, that's great. But if you do, feel free to email me. My email is miho@thankyouocean.org. And before folks sign off, there is a poll that should show up in your tab or your web browser. So if you could please fill that out, it would be greatly appreciated. So with that, thank you so much.